Correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's the perspective from self, from absolute clarity. From ego, it's either or. Or something happened or nothing happened.
I see.
Correct?
Yeah.
So ego also needs to identify, is destiny true or free will true?
Yes.
Because he can't see that both are the same. All right?
Yeah. I'm a little.
It depends on the angle you see it.
Yeah. Destiny and free will. Yeah.
Yeah. If you see it from wanting to be free will the truth, then you see how many things you really decided to do.
Yeah.
If you see it from the side of destiny, then you see that everything you've done, it came to you out of nowhere.
Yes.
And so you can see it both ways.
Yeah.
And they both can be real.
Yeah.
Depending from which perspective is coming. So free will and destiny belong to the ego.
Yeah.
The self is free from free will and destiny. Because the self is not the doer.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
So from the self point of view, yes, everything is predeterminated, you see? Or there is destiny. And free will is the way destiny manifests in us.
Yeah.
So, in the instruction, you see, when you receive instruction to find yourself, because your mind is too busy into trying to find out what to do, because you believe in action as a source of achieving things, your mind is working in a modality of cause-effect. It's called the law of causation. So you believe that if you do the right thing, you're going to get the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And then you get exhausted because you never do the right thing. And when you are exhausted of free will, you wish, you see, to give that effort away. And that's destiny, you see. So the ego rests in devotion,
Right.
in absolute trust in the source. And then when it rests, so does the mind. Because the mind was trying to get the right cause for the right consequence.
Right.
But if the mind stops trying to produce the right cause for the right consequence, then it becomes still. And when it becomes still, then that mind can find the source. That mind becomes emptiness, and it can see emptiness in its own source, you see?
Yeah.
And it can dive in. Now this is the explanation of why there's nothing you can do about your life, you see? And the truth is there is and there is not.
Yeah.
But the mind cannot understand that. Only the self understands that. The self that transcends the dualistic imposition of nature, the apparent imposition of dualistic perspective, you see, cannot see that you do and you don't do at the same time.
Right.
Cannot be in peace with that sentence. You just get lost. What I do and what is done. What is it that I do and what is it that is done by itself? The self, pure consciousness, understands directly that the doing happens by itself. And yes, you could say you're doing it, but that's not you anymore.
Yeah.
So you find out that it speaks of different perspectives. I don't know if that explanation is
Well, it
helpful.
is, yeah. Because what I feel from what you're saying is that the motivation for doing things comes from a different place then.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like for instance,
Mm.
positive thinking and all that sort of
Mhm.
thing,
Mm.
and to bring about what you at least think you want in your
Exactly.
life.
Mm.
Then the motivation for that comes from a different place.
Yes.
So it's not so, in a way, it's not so important,
Mm.
because it's not going to change
Mm.
what I already am, sort of
Mhm.
thing. Mm. I see your point, and that sometimes maybe I'm following that because I want to change what I already am.
Mm.
Yeah, you can hear that.
Very, very good. And then when you're settled in yourself, you don't have anymore an open window to say, "Oh, change yourself or become something,"
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
And most of the actions in the world are for that.
Yeah.
So you become naturally still. And in bliss.
Yeah.
And then, people say, "How can you? Let's do this or let's do that," and when there is freedom, you just don't feel like doing anything. Sometimes it's natural, and you're allowed to, because you feel fulfilled. You see, you feel satisfied.
Mm.
The impulse of doing things is not there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's great.
It is great. Yeah.
Not for those who surround you, though. Sometimes they see you as a little bit of a, come on.
Spoil sport.
No, it's like, it's difficult to understand if you're not living that.
Yeah.
Mm. But it becomes happiness with no reason. And it becomes achievement without cause.
Yeah. That's very good. Thank you.
Mm. So many of us, the conditioning we have is that it's wrong not to do anything. You see, like. I tell you a story. A long time ago, I was in satsangs in London, and I was staying in a place called St. Albans, Aldens, and there was a big park there, and I just stayed there throughout. There were many days. In those times, we had 10 days of satsangs or more, and I was just there, and everybody, all the team who was in the house where I stayed, would wake up and try to do something, you see. And I would come in the kitchen and make up tea and sit in the garden. And they kind of took turns to be doing nothing with me, because all of them together couldn't handle it. So. And it was a sacrifice for them to do nothing there were 2 hours turns, and it took me a while to understand that, because I just didn't notice. And then I started seeing kind of mechanic change of people every very similar lapses of time. And I said, "Are you taking turns to be with me?" "Yes, we want to take care of you, but it's exhausting." I said, oh, that's very kind. I thought, yeah. What is it tired about being with me? Just what's and they said the stillness can't be still, you see. My mind comes up with things and I have to invent something. I see something and something needs to be done about that. Everywhere I put my eyes, something needs to be done about that. Turn this picture, close the curtain, pass the vacuum, cook something for later. Something needs to be done, and you're just there sitting. So that made me understand how immense is the transition, you see, to peace in people, in some people. Is how many battles one has to really win in stillness, because the conditioning is quite strong. Let's see.
When you say that, when you say you can discipline the mind, that you can stay still as all those impulses to move come up.
Yes, yes. If you have them. In my case, I don't have them, which makes it a lot easier. Yeah. So for me, it's easy to speak about it. But I do recognize the difficulty in if it happens, if it comes up. And there is, yes, you can pass the microphone to her. Thank you. There is a pace about it, and it doesn't correspond to the pace that you may have in your conditioning, or you've been seeing all your life other people living in that way. So the pace you find inside doesn't correspond to the pace of what you should be. And there's a battle there to win. That's when I say, you should nothing. You see? It's not easy. It's a lot easier to keep busy than to be still. It's a lot, but 100 times easier. It's a way of avoidance too. So they took turns because they found it exhausting to be with me and not to jump to any distractions. Do you want to move to the shadow? No, I like the sun. And it doesn't mean you need to feel inadequate if the habit is not. It's just for you to observe and for you to become aware, and there's another scope, there's another space where you can just liberate yourself from, So in Paris happened the same. I went to Paris and I went to I fell in love with a bridge and in a place, and there was a place to sit down underneath, and I used to buy a baguette and a salami and a piece of cheese and some milk and sit there, and I was in bliss. Just looking at the boats going through, and then other friends who were there because of. Now we're going to see this museum, or now we're going to see the tower, the Eiffel Tower. No, how can you be in Paris and not go to see the Eiffel Tower? They told me. There's nothing against the Eiffel Tower. I'm happy to go and see it. In fact, I saw it. But there was no urge. I was immersed in a medieval Paris that I found in a corner. The stones in the river were talking to me about history. I could hear the horses. I can't find that in the museum. And I can't find that in the Eiffel Tower, you see? And the waters told me where they were going. And I followed them all the way. So when you search, you can't find. And when you stop searching, you find. And similarly, it's the same chain of activities. Oh no, I have to do this because I said I'm going to do it. You can't lose your personality, your center, your individuality, your free will. And it's something to observe there, you see. What is it? What's the problem with doing nothing, you see? It's such a big taboo in society. Such a big taboo. We are scared to be found doing nothing. Even if we're doing nothing and somebody walks in, we try to pretend we're doing something. It's very deeply rooted. Some people even have things organized in case somebody come in. Now, if you think about it, it's your life and you can do anything you want with it. It's a gift. You're going to die without knowing that. Which of your impulses are yours? If you study that, you will find that none of them are yours. A very good example is when you go to a place that there is nothing, and there's no shops or anything, and you just have to eat whatever you have. And when you're home, you just go for the supermarket for anything, just a sauce or something. And then it sometimes happens that you don't want to do anything. It happens to me, a friend of mine in Rio de Janeiro. I was doing satsangs there. And he said to me, he sent me an email after, he said, after you left, I lived for 3 weeks with what I had in my house. And every time I had the thought I had to go shopping, I thought, do I need that really? And the answer was no. And I started doing rice, but the right amount for my stomach, not more that I had to throw away after. And with half an onion, I made a party, he said to me. And one egg was like a gift from the gods, luxury. And he found that every time the mind was coming up saying what he needed, he didn't. And the joy he had from that, he wanted to share with me. And he was saying it became sweeter and sweeter. I was just in my house. everything was happening outside. Beautiful days, days that everybody wants to go to the sea, or he has the beach 2 blocks away in Rio. And he didn't go to the beach. You know that idea of wasting a nice day? Well, he enjoyed it. And that's what I instructed him to do. Because I saw he was very restless. I say, enjoy a wasted day. These are the corners where you find freedom. In an empty road on a Sunday afternoon where nobody goes. And he said everything became sweeter and sweeter as the days passed. Everything became too minimal. I realized I needed very little, nothing. And also a good shower didn't need to take 15 minutes. He learned to have a shower in 3 minutes. Good shower. The soap, he said, he needed to buy because it was very small in the shower, and the little piece of soap lasted all those 3 weeks. At the end, he was washing his body with a little piece of thing and it was amazingly sufficient. And I believe that as individuals of society, which are societies that are challenged by change of climate and the consequences of industrialization, I believe it's our duty to reach that state as individuals. I think we are joking when we talk about ecology, and we just have no end to needs. It's linked. The problem is not the industry. The problem is the demand for the industry. So long as there is demand, there will be industry. So long as you want things all the time, new and different, and you don't care where they come from, how they were done, and who made them. But if you reach the state of peace, you become naturally, automatically, somebody who cares for nature and for the energy. You make a change. Because you don't need so much. The problem is that we need much, and that's to be poor. To need much is to be poor. To not need anything is to be rich. So you need and need and need. And 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 that is putting everything in danger. The whole world, the whole planet, the resources are limited. And the big business people think we have to make this anyway. All these people will buy it. It's just about the right publicity. They'll get it. They have it all planned. They know your patterns so well. There are specialized people studying that, your behavior. So the only way to stop that is that you don't fulfill that. And if everybody does that, there will be change, you see. So I believe it's your duty, is our duty as individuals to become, you see, more content within our situation. I'm not saying, of course, you can't generalize it if you need something to happen or change. But in general, if I can generalize, we need more than we need. And that's what is out of balance in the world. That creates all sort of situations. It creates wars, and it creates uncontrolled industry, the abuse of nature, the non-responsibility about the consequences. It maintains the inequality in the world, our needs. Because for them to be satisfied, inequality has to exist. You see? And this is why it's for me motivating to talk about peace. This is why for me it's interesting, because I know that if you can actually come home and be more yourself and understand that peace is a lot more simple and achievable in your life, then you won't be part of the rat race so much. And you make a difference. You give an example of new generations of how to live with how to be happy with or without nothing, you see. So it's linked, self-awareness with this, with ecology. There's not going to be a change until we change. And you can blame politicians, and you can blame the, whatever you want. But they're just responding to demand. So not only you can't find happiness in that world, but you also destroy it. So in a humble way, I see that if one of you just gets transformed within and finds peace and acts with nature differently and with other fellow humans, the job is done. Yes? Someone else wants to speak? Okay. There are no stages in realization or degrees of liberation, says the Master. There are no levels of reality. There are only levels of experience for the individual. If anything can be gained that was not present before, it can also be lost, whereas the Absolute is eternal, here and now.